Welcome back. This Eisenhower dollar may look like ordinary pocket change, but some hidden versions have stunned collectors with life-changing auction prices, and the tiny detail most people ignore could be sitting in your collection right now. First coin. The 1976 United States bicentennial Eisenhower dollar arrived during one of the most patriotic celebrations in modern American history, created to honor America's 200th birthday with a bold design that instantly separated it from every other dollar coin in circulation. And unlike regular Eisenhower dollars, this special issue carried the unforgettable dual date, 1776, 1976, along with a dramatic reverse showing the Liberty Bell floating in front of the moon, a design chosen from a nationwide competition that captured both the spirit of independence and the ambition of the space age at the same time, making the coin feel less like spare change and more like a frozen piece of American celebration. Yet what makes collectors stare at these coins today is not just the design, but the strange reality that millions were produced, while only a tiny fraction survived with the sharp surfaces, clean fields, and unusual mint traits that can push certain examples into astonishing territory, especially when hidden errors or overlooked varieties enter the picture, because while most bicentennial Eisenhower dollars remain common, a select few have transformed from forgotten drawer coins into discoveries capable of changing someone's financial situation overnight. The visual appearance of the bicentennial Eisenhower dollar is part of what keeps collectors fascinated decades later, because the coin feels massive compared to modern circulating coins, weighing heavily in the hand with broad surfaces that easily reveal scratches, strike weakness, or unusual minting mistakes. And collectors often focus intensely on the contrast between the copper-nickel circulation strikes and the 40% silver collector versions produced in special mint sets. Since the silver examples sometimes display a softer gray shine, while clad pieces carry a brighter metallic tone, yet the real intrigue begins when strange surface textures, doubled lettering, off-center strikes, or unusual rim formations appear, because these tiny differences can separate a standard keepsake from a coin worth thousands, and stories continue circulating about ordinary people finding bicentennial Eisenhower dollars in inherited jars, casino trays, old dresser boxes, or forgotten bank rolls, only to realize years later that they had unknowingly held an exceptional example tied to one of the biggest commemorative coin releases in American history. Collectors also chase this coin because of the unique moment in which it was created, as the United States Mint was under enormous pressure during the mid-1970s to produce enough commemorative coinage for a patriotic public hungry for souvenirs of the bicentennial celebration, leading to massive production at Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. But with that production rush came inconsistencies that modern collectors now examine under magnification with almost forensic attention, especially on coins showing strong strike details in Eisenhower's hair, crisp lettering around the Liberty Bell, and deeply defined moon textures that weaker strikes often lack. And over the years, certain examples displaying doubled dies, rotated reverses, clipped planchets, die cracks, and missing clad layers have gained near legendary status in collector circles, creating a strange tension around every bicentennial Eisenhower dollar, because even heavily worn examples force people to wonder whether an overlooked mint anomaly could still be hiding beneath decades of scratches and pocket wear. One reason these coins continue generating excitement is because the price gap between average examples and elite survivors can feel almost unbelievable, with ordinary circulated coins remaining affordable, while cleaner collector-grade pieces can climb dramatically depending on strike quality, preservation, and rarity characteristics. And some minor variations or attractive high-grade examples have reached illustrative market levels between $2,500 and $7,500 when strong eye appeal and certification align correctly, while more notable coins featuring sharper strikes, uncommon die characteristics, or premium mint state preservation have crossed into the $9,000 range, creating the kind of sudden discovery story that collectors dream about. Especially for people who once ignored these large dollars as oversized curiosities, because the realization that a forgotten coin might equal a major car payment or provide a financial safety cushion creates an emotional rush that keeps people searching through old collections year after year. The deeper collectors move into the world of bicentennial Eisenhower dollars, the more they discover how condition changes everything. Because a coin with nearly flawless surfaces, blazing luster, minimal contact marks, and exceptional strike sharpness can become extraordinarily scarce despite the original high mintages. And this is where the value ladder begins climbing into territory that feels almost unreal to casual observers. With certain high-grade certified examples reaching illustrative levels around $10,000, while especially rare collector pieces tied to difficult conditions or low surviving populations have approached $12,000 or even $15,000 in exceptional cases, not because every coin is valuable, but because truly superior survivors are remarkably difficult to locate, especially for a coin this large and vulnerable to damage. And the emotional impact becomes powerful when collectors compare such discoveries to a once-in-a-lifetime windfall or the kind of unexpected money that could help fund a business idea, erase debt, or contribute toward a down payment on a home. Then come the stories that transform the bicentennial Eisenhower dollar from a collectible into something almost mythical, because certain mint anomalies have stunned experts with their rarity and market demand, including dramatic off-metal strikes, severe double denominations, or highly unusual production errors that escaped the mint decades ago. And while these pieces remain extremely rare, illustrative auction outcomes for extraordinary anomalies have climbed toward $25,000. Especially when certified by respected grading companies and supported by strong historical documentation. Yet even more astonishing are the unusual finds that combine rarity, condition, and collector obsession into perfect storms of demand, leading some elite examples to reach around $65,000 under exceptional market conditions, creating headlines that sound impossible to people who still think of the coin as ordinary pocket change. And those moments are exactly what fuel the modern treasure hunting culture surrounding old American coinage. Experts constantly remind collectors to examine bicentennial Eisenhower dollars carefully and responsibly because tiny physical details often separate ordinary examples from significant finds, starting with weight, since silver versions differ from standard clad pieces, while color can reveal missing clad layers or unusual metal composition issues, and the rim deserves close attention because broad, uneven, or oddly shaped rims sometimes indicate striking abnormalities that escaped quality control, while letter doubling around Liberty, In God We Trust, or the dual date can signal important varieties that deserve professional evaluation, and collectors also study strike alignment, checking whether the reverse appears rotated or improperly centered, because even subtle errors can dramatically increase interest among specialists. Yet professionals always stress authentication and grading before assuming major value, since many damaged coins can imitate true mint errors, making expert confirmation essential before anyone treats a discovery as financially significant. The fascination surrounding the 1976 United States bicentennial Eisenhower dollar ultimately comes from the unsettling possibility that history, luck, and hidden value can collide inside the most ordinary places imaginable. Because somewhere an old coffee tin, inherited toolbox, casino souvenir drawer, or forgotten piggy bank may still contain an overlooked example waiting for someone patient enough to recognize its unusual weight, strange shine, sharp strike, or mysterious doubling. And while extraordinary values are never guaranteed and always depend on rarity, condition, authentication, and collector demand, the continuing discoveries surrounding this iconic coin keep the hunt alive in a way few modern collectibles can match, especially when stories emerge about ordinary people uncovering coins worth far more than they ever imagined, and just when collectors think the bicentennial mystery has finally been solved. Another shocking coin surfaces from obscurity, carrying a hidden detail so strange that even veteran experts stop and stare in disbelief. Next coin. The 1971 U.S. Eisenhower dollar coin entered circulation carrying the image of a president, but behind its oversized appearance was a dramatic turning point in American coin history that many people completely overlooked at the time, because this was the first circulating dollar coin struck by the United States Mint after the long disappearance of silver dollars from everyday commerce. And the country was still reacting to the end of the silver era while the space race remained fresh in public memory, which is why the reverse design showing the Apollo 11 mission insignia felt more symbolic than most people realized, connecting the coin to one of the greatest technological achievements in human history, while ordinary Americans treated it like casino money or tossed it into desk drawers without a second thought. Yet decades later, collectors began noticing that beneath the heavy surface of these giant dollars were strange strike patterns, overlooked mint mistakes, and rare survival conditions that transformed certain examples from common pocket change into objects capable of drawing intense bidding wars among specialists who understood how few exceptional pieces truly existed. What makes the 1971 Eisenhower dollar especially fascinating is the atmosphere in which it was produced, because the mint faced enormous pressure to create a large modern dollar coin that could satisfy collectors, banks, casinos, and the public all at once. But the machinery being used was not fully prepared for the demands of such a large copper-nickel coin, leading to weak strikes, uneven surfaces, and subtle production inconsistencies that today form the foundation of the coin's collector intrigue, especially on Philadelphia examples where missing mint marks force collectors to rely entirely on texture, detail sharpness, and luster quality to identify stronger specimens, while the San Francisco silver-clad versions developed their own following due to their softer metallic appearance and lower mintages, creating a hidden divide between ordinary circulation pieces and carefully preserved collector strikes that many families unknowingly mixed together over the years inside jars and inherited collections, without realizing the enormous difference in rarity that could exist between two coins that outwardly looked almost identical. Collectors studying the 1971 Eisenhower dollar often become obsessed with tiny visual clues because this coin has a reputation for hiding important details in plain sight, especially around the lettering, eagle feathers, moon surface, and Eisenhower's portrait, where doubled dies strike deterioration. And die polishing marks sometimes create mysterious textures that inexperienced owners mistake for damage, while experienced specialists recognize them as potentially important mint characteristics. And one of the reasons suspense continues surrounding this coin is because large numbers were mishandled immediately after release, meaning pristine survivors are dramatically scarcer than original mintages suggest, with many coins suffering scratches, bag marks, rim bruises, and dull surfaces before they ever reach circulation, making sharply preserved examples feel almost unnatural when viewed under bright light today, especially when thick frost, reflective fields, or unusually crisp details appear on a coin that spent decades being ignored by the general public. The emotional pull surrounding the 1971 Eisenhower dollar comes from stories of missed opportunities and accidental discoveries that continue surfacing years later, because there are collectors who remember spending these coins casually in the 1970s without ever imagining that some examples would later command extraordinary prices, while others discovered rare varieties hidden inside inherited albums only after deciding to inspect them more closely. And these stories create a powerful sense of tension every time another forgotten box of coins is opened, especially when unusual characteristics emerge such as dramatic die cracks cutting across the design, rotated reverses, broad strikes lacking normal rim definition, or doubled inscriptions visible beneath magnification, because each anomaly raises the terrifying possibility that valuable coins may have already slipped unnoticed through thousands of hands over the decades, lost forever simply because nobody paused long enough to study the details hiding beneath the worn metallic surface. As collector demand intensified over the years, the market began separating ordinary 1971 Eisenhower dollars from truly desirable examples in ways that surprised even experienced numismatists, because while common circulated coins often remained affordable, cleaner specimens with superior strike quality and eye appeal started climbing rapidly in value, especially those certified in elite mint state grades or carrying recognized error traits. And recorded auction or private sale outcomes, for notable examples, have reached illustrative ranges between $5,000 and $12,000, depending on rarity, preservation, and certification, particularly when vibrant luster, exceptional surfaces, or unusual strike traits were involved, while collectors hunting for premium silver-clad pieces pushed certain examples even higher due to their stronger visual contrast and scarcity in top condition, creating the kind of sudden financial discovery that turns a forgotten family keepsake into something emotionally overwhelming for the person who finally realizes what had been sitting untouched for years. The higher levels of the collector market surrounding this coin become even more dramatic once rare era examples enter the conversation, because the 1971 Eisenhower dollar developed a reputation for producing strange mint mistakes that remain fiercely contested among specialists, including off-center strikes, missing clad layers, severe die doubling, and unusual planchet errors that transformed ordinary coins into major auction attractions. With certain high-grade error pieces reportedly reaching around $20,000 in private sales, while rarer and more visually dramatic examples have climbed toward $35,000 under strong collector demand, particularly when the errors were obvious enough to stand out instantly even to non-collectors. And the emotional intensity surrounding these discoveries comes from the realization that many of these coins originally entered circulation unnoticed, meaning someone somewhere may have spent a fortune unknowingly decades ago, while another person later uncovered that same coin in a forgotten roll or inherited collection. The most astonishing stories connected to the 1971 Eisenhower dollar involve elite mint state coins and extreme mint anomalies that crossed into levels few people ever associate with modern American dollar coins, because unusually preserved examples with nearly flawless surfaces, blazing cartwheel luster, razor-sharp strikes, and exceptional eye appeal have reportedly approached $50,000 in specialized auctions, while highly unusual mistakes involving dramatic misstrikes or unique production abnormalities push certain coins toward the $75,000 range under extraordinary circumstances, and in the rarest situations involving extreme mint errors or one-of-a-kind combinations of rarity and preservation, reported outcomes have approached or even exceeded $100,000 to $120,000 in private collector transactions. Not as guarantees, but as rare historical examples of what passionate demand can produce when a truly exceptional coin surfaces unexpectedly, creating the kind of life-changing moment that collectors dream about but almost never experience firsthand. Careful examination remains absolutely essential with the 1971 Eisenhower dollar because many ordinary damaged coins can imitate valuable errors, which is why experienced collectors recommend checking weight first to determine whether the metal composition matches known standards, then examining the coin's color for unusual silver tones, missing clad layers, or strange copper exposure that could indicate production abnormalities rather than environmental damage. While strike alignment should also be inspected closely to see whether the design appears improperly centered or rotated, and the rim deserves special attention because expanded rims, uneven edges, or distorted borders sometimes reveal striking pressure issues that ordinary wear cannot create, while magnification can uncover subtle letter doubling around Liberty, In God We Trust, or the date itself, yet even when a coin appears unusual. Responsible collectors consistently advise professional authentication and grading before making assumptions or rushing into impulsive sales, because the difference between an ordinary curiosity and a truly important discovery can only be confirmed through expert evaluation and careful numismatic analysis. Next up, the USA 1974 Eisenhower dollar coin looked like nothing more than a bulky piece of pocket change when it first appeared, yet hidden beneath its heavy metallic surface was a story tied to a turbulent period in American history when inflation fears, economic uncertainty, and changing attitudes toward coin collecting quietly transformed the way people viewed large dollar coins, and unlike earlier silver dollars that carried a sense of frontier nostalgia, The 1974 Eisenhower dollar represented a modern America trying to redefine itself after the excitement of the moon landing era had already begun fading into memory, which is exactly why so many of these coins were ignored, scratched, stacked in casino trays, or left untouched inside dresser drawers for decades, while only a small number survived with the unusual characteristics and preservation quality that collectors now search for with almost obsessive attention, turning what once seemed ordinary into one of the most quietly fascinating coins of the Eisenhower dollar series. The visual identity of the 1974 Eisenhower dollar creates much of its collector appeal because the coin's broad design leaves nowhere for imperfections to hide, meaning every nick, dull patch, weak strike, or strange texture becomes immediately noticeable under proper lighting. And collectors are especially drawn to the contrast between sharply detailed examples and the many poorly struck pieces that left the mint during a period of difficult production conditions. With Eisenhower's portrait often showing softness around the hair and jawline, while the reverse eagle design sometimes lost definition in the feathers and moon surface due to insufficient striking pressure. Yet these same production inconsistencies later became part of the coin's mystery, because certain examples displayed unusual clarity, mirrored fields, or distinct doubling that separated them from the overwhelming majority of surviving coins, making experienced collectors stop and study details that casual owners would never notice. Part of the suspense surrounding this coin comes from the fact that millions were produced at Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, but relatively few escaped damage because the large size and heavy weight of the Eisenhower dollar made it vulnerable almost immediately after minting, especially when stored in canvas bags where coins slammed against each other repeatedly during transport, leaving deep contact marks that permanently destroyed the clean surfaces collectors prize today. And because so many coins entered casinos and gaming circulation, countless examples suffered accelerated where long before anyone considered preserving them carefully, which means sharply preserved coins with bright luster and minimal abrasions now feel surprisingly rare despite the enormous original mintages, especially when paired with unusual strike quality or strange minting traits that suggest something abnormal happened during production inside the mint itself. Collectors also remain captivated by the hidden variety landscape surrounding the 1974 Eisenhower dollar because subtle differences in die preparation, strike alignment, and metal flow created small but important distinctions that modern specialists continue studying decades later, particularly on coins showing letter doubling around Liberty or In God We Trust, unusual rim expansion caused by striking pressure irregularities, or faint design shifts that hint at rotated dies or off-center production mistakes, and some examples reveal delicate die cracks stretching across the fields like tiny lightning bolts frozen in metal, while others display partially missing clad layers that expose unusual copper coloration beneath the normal surface, creating a visual shock for anyone expecting an ordinary silver-gray appearance. And it is exactly these overlooked details that fuel stories of collectors discovering valuable examples hidden inside inherited coin jars after years of neglect. The emotional side of this coin's history becomes impossible to ignore once people realize how many potentially important examples may have already vanished into circulation unnoticed, because there are stories of individuals spending rare Eisenhower dollars at gas stations, laundromats, or vending machines decades before the collector market recognized certain varieties and eras. And the haunting thought that a coin once traded casually for $1 might later command thousands creates a deep sense of missed opportunity that keeps treasure hunters searching through old bank rolls and forgotten collections today, especially since documented auction and collector sale records have shown that notable 1974 Eisenhower dollar eras or premium condition pieces can reach illustrative levels between $3,000 and $10,000 depending on rarity, certification, strike quality, and visual appeal, transforming what appeared to be ordinary spare change into something emotionally and financially unforgettable. As demand for elite Eisenhower dollars intensified, the upper levels of the market became even more dramatic because collectors competing for unusually preserved examples began paying extraordinary premiums for coins with blazing luster, strong detail definition, and exceptional eye appeal, particularly when combined with rare minting abnormalities that separated them from standard circulation strikes. And certain unusual finds connected to striking defects or low population conditions have reportedly reached around $18,000 in specialized sales, while sharply preserved high-grade examples with extraordinary surface quality and minimal bag marks have approached $28,000 in competitive auction environments, proving that rarity in the Eisenhower series is often defined not by mintage alone, but by survival quality and the unpredictable quirks of mint production that created hidden treasures almost nobody noticed at the time. The most astonishing examples, however, exist in an entirely different category because some 1974 Eisenhower dollars emerged with dramatic production mistakes that instantly captured collector attention, including severe off-center strikes, major planchet abnormalities, broad strikes lacking normal rims, and striking errors so visually unusual that they became centerpiece items inside advanced collections. And documented collector sales for strong error examples have climbed toward $45,000 under favorable market conditions, while extreme mint state errors featuring extraordinary preservation or spectacular visual anomalies reportedly reached around $65,000 in rare cases, creating the kind of jaw-dropping discovery stories that continue circulating throughout the numismatic world. Especially when people learn that many of these coins originally passed through ordinary circulation channels before anyone recognized their significance. At the highest levels of rarity, the 1974 Eisenhower dollar becomes almost mythical among serious collectors, because a handful of rare misstrikes and possibly unique production anomalies have reportedly approached or exceeded $95,000 in private collector transactions, while exceptional one-of-a-kind discoveries tied to extraordinary minting circumstances have reached illustrative levels near $110,000 in documented sales history. Not as promises, but as reminders of how dramatically collector demand can escalate when rarity, condition, and historical fascination collide inside a single coin, which is why experts constantly encourage careful examination before dismissing any unusual Eisenhower dollar as worthless, advising collectors to check weight for metal inconsistencies, inspect the surface color for exposed copper or silver-clad composition differences, study strike alignment for rotational abnormalities, examine rims for expansion or distortion, and search closely for letter doubling or die cracks under magnification, while always emphasizing professional authentication and grading before any sale decision is made, because true rarity can only be confirmed through expert analysis and proper certification. Last coin. The 1977 Eisenhower dollar coin never carried the glamour of older silver dollars when it first entered circulation, and that quiet reputation is exactly what allowed some of its most fascinating secrets to remain hidden for decades inside desk drawers, casino vaults, forgotten bank rolls, and inherited collections where nobody bothered to examine the coin closely, because by 1977, Americans had already started losing interest in large dollar coins, viewing them as bulky and inconvenient compared to paper money. Yet inside the mint, subtle production differences, rushed die preparation, and changing manufacturing conditions quietly created a small number of pieces that would later become deeply desirable among collectors who understood how unusual the surviving examples truly were, especially since many of these coins vanished into heavy commercial use almost immediately, leaving only scattered survivors with the sharp details, unusual surfaces, and minting irregularities that now trigger excitement whenever one appears unexpectedly. What makes the 1977 Eisenhower dollar visually captivating is the strange contrast between power and fragility hidden within its design, because the massive portrait of Dwight Eisenhower appears bold and commanding at first glance, yet under magnification the coin often reveals fragile strike characteristics that expose the challenges faced during production, including flat hair details, weak eagle feathers, dull fields, and uneven luster patterns that change dramatically from one die pair to another, while certain examples display unusually bright frost across the portrait with reflective backgrounds that almost resemble proof-like surfaces even on circulation strikes, creating a dramatic visual effect collectors immediately notice, especially when the coin retains its original mint bloom untouched by decades of handling. And these rare combinations of sharp detail and clean preservation are far scarcer than most people realize, because the majority of surviving 1977 Eisenhower dollars suffered severe contact damage almost the moment they left the mint. The hidden rarity surrounding this coin grew partly because enormous quantities were treated carelessly during distribution, with heavy canvas mint bags causing deep abrasions as the large dollar coins repeatedly slammed into one another during transport, leaving countless pieces scarred before collectors ever had the opportunity to preserve them. And as interest in the Eisenhower series declined during the late 1970s, very few people bothered storing pristine examples properly, meaning many of the cleanest surviving coins today emerged purely by accident from unopened rolls, forgotten mint sets, or old family collections that escaped circulation entirely, while specialists later discovered that certain die states from 1977 displayed subtle doubling around lettering and date elements, faint rotational shifts in the strike, or unusual rim formations caused by striking pressure irregularities, all of which transformed seemingly common coins into highly studied varieties that advanced collectors now pursue aggressively. One of the most suspenseful aspects of the 1977 Eisenhower dollar is the growing number of stories involving people unknowingly spending valuable examples years before understanding their significance, because during the coin's early life, most Americans treated these dollars as inconvenient novelty pieces rather than collectible treasures, leading rare errors and premium condition examples to circulate freely through casinos, vending systems, and cash draws without attracting attention. And there are documented accounts of collectors later realizing that coins they once traded away for face value may have possessed striking abnormalities or preservation quality capable of commanding astonishing premiums decades later, which creates a haunting emotional connection for modern viewers who suddenly wonder whether similar treasures could still remain hidden in old coin jars or inherited boxes, sitting untouched inside closets and garages across the country. As collector demand intensified over time, the value landscape surrounding the 1977 Eisenhower dollar evolved into a dramatic ladder of possibilities, where even relatively minor minting abnormalities began attracting serious money in the numismatic market, because coins displaying unusual rim thickness, subtle letter doubling, off-center strikes, or uncommon die clashes have reportedly achieved documented private sale and auction outcomes ranging from approximately $7,500 to $18,000, depending on rarity, certification, and visual appeal, while unusual misstrikes involving distorted planchets or striking alignment issues have approached $25,000 under strong collector demand, proving that the difference between an ordinary Eisenhower dollar and a remarkable one often comes down to tiny production details invisible to the casual eye, but deeply important to specialists who understand the complexities of mint manufacturing during that era. The market becomes even more intense at the upper levels, where preservation quality alone can dramatically influence desirability, because truly high-grade 1977 Eisenhower dollars with nearly flawless surfaces, booming luster, razor-sharp strike details, and minimal contact marks are surprisingly elusive due to the coin's large exposed design and rough handling history. And some exceptional mint-state examples have reportedly climbed toward $40,000 in competitive sales when certified at elite condition levels, while strong mint-state errors featuring dramatic die anomalies, missing clad layers, or broad strike characteristics have reached around $55,000 in specialized auctions, creating the kind of life-changing discovery stories that fuel modern treasure hunting and inspire collectors to inspect every unusual Eisenhower dollar far more carefully than previous generations ever imagined possible. The most dramatic discoveries, however, exist in an entirely different category, because a small number of 1977 Eisenhower dollars have surfaced with spectacular production mistakes, so visually unusual that they immediately became legendary among serious collectors, including major off-center strikes, severe planchet distortions, doubled inscriptions visible without magnification, and rare misstrikes involving extraordinary alignment failures that transformed ordinary coins into museum-level conversation pieces, and documented sales tied to these rare misstrikes have reportedly approached or exceeded $80,000 under favorable market conditions, while extraordinary examples with extreme anomalies, elite preservation, and verified rarity have climbed toward $120,000 in high-profile collector transactions, with some one-of-a-kind pieces reportedly reaching astonishing levels near $150,000, not as guarantees, but as real reminders of how dramatically rarity and collector competition can reshape the value of something once dismissed as common pocket change. Anyone examining a 1977 Eisenhower dollar today should do so carefully and responsibly, because the smallest details can completely change the coin's importance, which is why experienced collectors recommend checking the weight for unusual metal inconsistencies, studying the surface color for exposed copper or strange clad separation, examining strike alignment for rotation or off-center characteristics, inspecting the rim for abnormal expansion or weakness, and searching closely for letter doubling or die cracks under strong magnification before making any assumptions about value, while always relying on professional authentication and grading rather than impulsive selling decisions, because history has repeatedly shown that extraordinary treasures sometimes hide in the most ordinary places imaginable, and somewhere tonight another forgotten Eisenhower dollar may still be sitting unnoticed inside a dusty drawer, waiting for someone to finally recognize its secret. So if you enjoyed uncovering the hidden world behind these coins, subscribe now and stay ready for the next shocking discovery, because this journey into rare hidden money officially comes to an end here.